So I work for EverydayFamily.com. We are a pregnancy and parenting website, and we have over 4 million members. And I'm hoping that I can share this story with them to help get the word out about Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and just really help spread the word that you guys are trying to share. So I'm hoping that you can help shed some light on this disease and how it's affecting you, and what we can do to help move things in the right direction for you and all the rest of the people out there with this. So, Dr. McCormick, would you mind sharing with us kind of what exactly is Duchenne muscular dystrophy and what it is?
Thank you, Shiloh, for the opportunity for us to be here today. Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a form of muscular dystrophy, and in general, these disorders affect the skeletal muscle, the muscles in the arm, legs, that sort of thing. They are genetic based, and many of these disorders are what we call inherited, and meaning they are present in subsequent generations. Duchenne targets the young male, and typically the little boy may present 15, 20 months of age around that time with delayed ability to walk. So we're talking about a late walker. Typically walking is achieved normally by 18 months of age, so these would be boys walking after. They may be tiptoe walkers up on their toes, and they often have a characteristic sign on the lower part of the leg in the calf, where the calf is really bulky and prominent, abnormally prominent. This disorder is screened by a very simple blood test with confirmation by a very simple blood test after that. However, it's much more sophisticated, in which we isolate the genetic abnormality. In approximately 2/3 of the boys, this test will come back positive, confirming this disorder. And in at least 1/3 of the patients, it is carried on the X chromosome by the mother. And this has implication in offspring.
Huh. That's really interesting. So the mother carries it, but it affects the boy.
Correct.
Okay, so and what can you explain? Where is this a treatable disease? Do they where does it progress to?
Sure. Well, unfortunately, it's fatal. The disorder is fatal, with death typically in the late teens, early adulthood. With progressive loss of function in muscles, weakness, it's a generalized disorder, and it can affect later in life the lungs and the heart. Mm-hmm. And there is treatment available. There are standard treatments within our clinics that we offer to all boys with muscular dystrophy. And then based on the specific DNA mutation, we can offer target therapy, which can be a real game changer for these boys.
That's great. Now, I know, Joanna Johnson, we've got you here with us, and thank you for joining us. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about how this disease has affected your family? Because I read here that you've got 2 sons, both with it?
Mm-hmm. So again, I have 2 sons with Duchenne, and in my case, it happens to be that I was a carrier, but it was a spontaneous genetic mutation that occurred in me, so there was no family history, and it came as a complete shock. My oldest son was diagnosed at age 3, he's 13 now, and my youngest son, Henry, has Duchenne. And, before we got this diagnosis, you think your life is gonna go a certain way. I'm thinking about Pee Wee soccer games and Little League, and then you get this catastrophic diagnosis, and it just turns your world upside down. And really, my husband and I were lost and struggling and trying to figure out how to cope.
Yes. So how have you coped?
Well, we were fortunate in that based on my son's particular genetic mutation, they were eligible for a clinical trial for a drug called Translarna, which is made by PTC Therapeutics, who we are here with today. And again, it targets their specific genetic mutation. And we have seen great benefits with this drug. Again, my sons are 13 and 10. The normal progression of the disease would say that by this point they would be in wheelchairs, and they're still ambulatory. They haven't lost any upper body strength. They still play the drums, but unfortunately, they have access to it because they were in a clinical trial, but it is not an FDA-approved drug, and at this point, the FDA has refused to look at the application for the drug, despite these benefits we're seeing.
Why would they do that?
Yeah,
that seems horrible.
Yes. So because Duchenne is a rare disease, numbers in the United States are about 15,000. So you're talking a pretty small population. So it's just not as easy to prove efficacy. For example, for a drug for heart disease or for hypertension. So it can be difficult to show efficacy. And there's other things like disease variability. So again, it's hard to see sometimes statistical benefit, even though we're seeing clinically meaningful benefit in the boys that are on drug.
Yeah. So what can we do to help push this process along? I mean, is there any recourse here? Because obviously, I mean, 15,000 isn't very much, but it's 15,000 people. That matters.
It's true. It does matter, and thank you for saying that. You know, obviously, Dr. McCormick and I are here today to create awareness about this situation, and there are other rare diseases that are waiting for treatment. So, I mean, again, just knowing about it, you know, you could reach out to your congressmen, legislators, tell them that you're concerned about delays that the FDA is incurring for drugs to treat rare disease. And if you're interested in finding out more information, there is an organization called Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, focused exclusively on Duchenne, and their website is parentprojectmd.org, and they have information about disease and updates about where things are with treatments.
Wonderful. Now, the FDA review that's on hold, how will that affect you guys? Will you continue to be able to get the drug because you're in this clinical trial?
Yes, my sons will continue to get access because they were involved in the clinical trial, and obviously I'm fighting for them, but there are boys that were unable to get into the clinical trial, and they're waiting for access, and they deserve the benefits that my sons are seeing as well.
Definitely. I agree 100%. Now, Dr. McCormick, I have a question here. What happens to nonsense mutation patients if the treatment is not approved? So, I mean, it's a fatal disease, but yeah, give me a little bit more color there.
Yes, well, it's important to note what happens when the boys receive targeted, meaningful therapy, as Joanne's two little boys. And I have a patient in my clinic, 15 years of age, still walking. That is unheard of. That is unheard of, Shiloh. So without meaningful targeted therapy, unfortunately, 13% of Duchenne muscular dystrophy boys with this nonsense mutation will not have appropriate therapy, and they will follow the natural course of the disease. Again, loss of walking, somewhere between 9 and 11 years of age, with progressive wheelchair confinement, profound muscle deterioration, loss of arm function, subsequent heart involvement, lung involvement, and early death, unfortunately, somewhere between late teens and young adulthood.
Wow, that's just heartbreaking. Well, I'm definitely going to get this story out to our members, and hopefully they will share it with their friends and family. And, you know, we really need to spread awareness about this, and hopefully we can get the FDA to get back on it and get their review done, because this is very important.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a great day, guys.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.